All right, thank you. And are you ready?
Yes, Your Honor, we're ready to proceed.
All right. Okay, and Ms. Iverson?
I am ready, but unless things have changed since I last spoke to Ms. Dick, she has legitimate reasons to ask for a reset, and I wouldn't contest that.
Okay. Well, I've not heard that from her exactly just yet, but we will see. And Mr. Weigel, I believe you mentioned you broke up just a little bit, but I think I heard preliminary matters
Yeah, yes, I do have
regarding
one
regarding.
preliminary matter.
Okay.
The records that have been at issue in this case, for the last 2 months, Texas Children produced those records at about 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon. There were 11,463 pages of records that they produced, more than, in other words, almost 10 War and Pieces or triple what they gave the state. And obviously we haven't had any time or opportunity to go through all of that. So I don't know what the state intends to do with those records or and we're certainly willing to share, but we haven't had a chance to look at them ourselves. And as far as the Baylor genetics records, we do not have those at all. And so, and that was a critical part of this. So, I'm not saying that we're not ready to proceed, but if they're going to proceed based on records that we've never seen, we're obviously going to have an objection to that. And, since the entire case began with, a call to CPS from the hospital, it's, we're going to probably have objections to foundation as to some of these CPS witnesses if their initial information came from the hospital.
All right, Mr. Weigel, thank you. Ms. Dick, any response?
Your Honor, we've done everything we can to cooperate with opposing counsel and get information to them as we've received it. We do have some issues with some recordings that we have not been able to play for them yet, but we have not received the 11,343 records. The last number of pages that we have is around 3,700. I'm not certain if I guess the question I have is if we can start with the temporary hearing and then recess so we can at least get it started. I did have a car accident this morning. So it's just been a number of different circumstances have occurred that I know we need to get started with the temporary hearing at least.
Okay, and who is the physician that's going to testify today?
Okay, he's not available today. He's in a murder trial
Okay.
in Crockett. He may be available if he gets out of the trial at a reasonable time, but he has not committed to testifying today. And I contacted everyone that could possibly set up another physician, and I was told that there are no physicians available today.
All right, I misunderstood you then. I thought there was one that was available today.
No.
All right. Well, we're going to need to start today, and you're simply going to have to contour around and avoid anything that would touch upon the genetic records, it seems to me, that no one has, and the latest set of records that's been batched, that's been turned over, I guess, yesterday afternoon. So
we have not received those records, Your Honor.
And I thought I understood you to say that you had not received I think the number was some 11,463-ish. Okay.
Yeah, Judge, we're gonna have to try to figure out how to make that happen as far as the technology.
Right.
You know, it's obviously can't just be sent via email. Mr. Weigel just got them this afternoon, so we have every intention of, sharing those and getting what we were able to obtain, Your Honor.
I mean, Mr. Scalise doesn't even have them because I can't email them to him because it's 140 megs and the limit is 25. So, I mean, I literally, and it's on a CD that I have that I'd be happy to copy or do whatever I want. But, my technological skill stopped at about the Atari. So, I do the best I can, but I'm certainly not unwilling to share it with the state. It's just like I said, we literally, I did not get them back to my office until after 5.
Right, of course.
Because I had to physically go get them downtown Houston.
It seems to me we're at least going to need to get started today. Otherwise, we may be in the position where the department has to refile the case, right? So with that, let me hear any opening statements, and then we'll call and swear in your witnesses.
I waive an opening statement at this time, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Scalise.
Yes, Judge, same for me, Your Honor. I waive.
All right, thank you, Mr. Weigel.
Your Honor, I would reserve the right to make an opening statement at the beginning of my case, but I would pass on the opportunity to make one now.
All right, very good. Thank you, Ms. Iverson.
Same, Your Honor. I reserve and waive.
All right, thank you. With that, Ms. Dick, you may call your first.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to call Zeta Medrano.
CPS investigator.
And how long have you been an investigator?
5.5 years.
Okay. And during your 5.5 years, approximately how many investigations have you conducted?
I couldn't tell you how many.
Okay. When did you begin your investigation into this case?
I began my investigation on December 11th, 2022.
All right. And what did you do first?
I made some phone calls, spoke to some hospital staff, inquiring about the child.
All right. And what did your investigation reveal regarding the timeline of the case?
The child came into the hospital with injuries, not breathing.
On what day?
I'm sorry, just a moment, Ms. Dick. Was there an objection?
Yes, Judge, I objected to hearsay, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Okay. When did you interview the parents?
I did not interview the parents personally. I was present.
All right. And who was the investigator involved with your investigation that day?
That would be Mr. Daniel Kingsley.
All right. And how did the mother appear at the hospital when you met her?
We met at her home.
At her home. Okay. So you were not at the hospital that day. That was Mr. Kingsley.
No, the mother was not at the hospital. She was at her home when we went to go interview her.
All right. So when you went to interview the mother at the home, how did she appear?
She appeared fine, normal.
And Ms. Medrano, is this on the 11th of December of 22?
No, that was on the 12th.
All right, thank you. You may continue.
All right. How was the father?
They were both fine at home with the other children.
Okay. Did the mother describe the sequence of events that brought them to the hospital?
She did.
And can you tell us what that is?
She said the day before, on the 10th, the child was kind of sleeping a lot. had kind of lethargic, wasn't acting normal. That was on the 10th. And then on the 11th, they same thing. He was being kind of fussy. They noticed it at maybe 10 o'clock at night. He was being fussy. She thought he wanted a bottle. And so then that's when I believe he started throwing up black stuff and just being lethargic, and his belly appeared bloated to her. So that's when they decided to take the baby to the hospital.
All right. And who drove to the hospital?
I believe the father did.
All right. And did the mother describe the ride to the hospital?
She did. She described it as, the whole time her checking on the baby, making sure he was okay. And then maybe 15 minutes or 10 minutes before they got there, that's when they noticed that he stopped breathing. And she performed CPR on him right before they got there. Then they got off, took him into the hospital.
All right. Did she describe what happened at the hospital?
She did. She said she took him in and they took the baby from her. She said there was a lot of commotion, a lot of staff, yelling and stuff about intubating him, and how he wasn't breathing. And that's basically what she said. There's just a lot of commotion, a lot of stuff going on.
In which hospital was this at? Did she say?
They initially took him to the Woodlands, Texas Children's.
Okay. And did the mother have concerns over what happened at the Woodlands Hospital?
She did mention that she overheard somebody saying that the baby's esophagus was
actually objection hearsay. Sorry. Okay. So what happened next at the Woodlands Hospital, according to Mom?
They took him and they wanted to transfer him to Texas Children downtown.
Okay.
I don't know exactly what all was done there, but they ended up having the child needed surgery, so they wanted to transfer him to downtown.
All right. And did the parents go downtown at that point?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. Where were the other children?
They were with the parents at the time.
Did the mother tell you what happened at the downtown hospital?
No, she just said that they were transferred there and that the child needed surgery.
And had the child had the surgery when you were at their house?
Yes, he had.
Did she say what the surgery was for?
She did not.
Okay. Was the father also interviewed while you were present?
Yes.
Okay. And did he have comments on what occurred at the hospital at the Woodlands?
In regards to
the care, just what had occurred, the events that happened at the Woodlands, and then how they got to Texas.
It was basically the same thing.
Okay.
But there was a lot of commotion going on, and they feel like the perforation in the esophagus was done there.
And did they say what the surgery was for? Did he say what the surgery was for?
No.
And she did not either, correct?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Okay, I need you to answer out loud, Ms. Medrano, please.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Well, what was your last answer to the last question?
No.
Okay.
Okay. What did the mother say regarding the condition of the baby that day?
That day, she stated that he was being fussy and wasn't acting normal.
Okay. When you say that that day? Or are we referring to the 10th, the 11th, or the 12th?
The 11th, sir.
Okay, and on the 12th, did either parent indicate the condition of the child at that time?
The child was currently in the hospital.
When did you see Sebastian?
I saw Sebastian on the 12th.
And when you saw SC, did he have any bruises on his body, marks of bruises on his body?
I did not see any, no, ma'am.
So when the parents were interviewed, did they indicate how long they've been married?
I remember them saying they've been together for 11 years on and off. I can't remember if they said married.
Okay. And were the parents asked about how they cared for the child?
Yes.
Okay. And did they have any concerns about his care prior to the hospitalization?
No.
Okay. And how did they say they were caring for him?
They would feed him, change him, just normal. They did mention their 10-year-old daughter would sometimes help. But mostly it was mom and dad that would care for SC.
Okay. Were they asked how the child might have been injured?
Yes, they were.
And what was their response?
They didn't mention any bumps, any falls. They didn't mention anything happening to SC.
Okay. So did they indicate who had been caring for SC at that point?
Like I said, I think it was mostly mom, Miss Wisner.
Did you ask them about the child's sleeping patterns, or were they asked about the child's sleeping patterns?
Not the patterns, but where he would sleep. They were asked that.
Did they indicate where?
They stated that he did have a crib, he did have a bassinet, and they would also sleep him on their bed as well.
All right. And was the issue of co-sleeping addressed?
Yes, we did speak to them about that.
Were they asked how long the baby had been spitting up black stuff?
I don't think they were asked. They just said it happened that day, which was December 11th.
Were they asked if any injuries had occurred to the child?
Yes, they were asked.
And what was their response?
That nothing had happened to SC, as far as they knew.
Were they forthcoming in their responses?
Yes.
Did they mention anything about feeding?
They mentioned the child not feeding well, having trouble with his feedings prior.
And did they indicate how long that had been going on?
From what I remember, I don't remember a time frame, but I know it had been going on for a while, where they were having trouble feeding, well, the baby taking feedings.
Did you ask about, or were they asked about prior hospitalizations?
Yes, and they didn't mention any.
Were they asked to sign a release for medical records?
Yes.
And did y'all give one to them?
Yes, I believe so.
Did you try to collect it at the end of the interview?
Yes, ma'am, I think I did.
And were they willing to turn that over?
Yes.
So you received it?
Yes, I've had it. Yes.
Okay. No further questions right at the moment. I'll pass the witness.
Right, thank you, Mr. Scalise.
you stated that you observed Sebastian on December 12th. Is that right?
Correct.
And that was the first time you'd seen him.
Yes, sir.
And you stated that you didn't see any bruises or marks on him. Is that right?
That's correct.
And so that would include the stomach area, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And on December 12th, you saw all of the children, the older children as well?
Yes.
Okay. And you didn't report observing any marks or bruises on those kids as well, right?
Right.
And you saw the home on December 12th?
Yes, sir.
You saw, okay. And you didn't report the home to be unclean or unsafe, correct?
No, it was not.
Okay. No, it was not, meaning it was clean.
It was
safe.
clean. Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. Now, you stated that the parents didn't have any concerns, but you did have a conversation with them about constipation issues, isn't that right?
Yes. More of a feeding issue.
Okay. But isn't it true that mom had talked about giving the baby Mylican and elderberry drops?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I believe that was to help with the constipation. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And that there had been reports, or they had been worried about Sebastian not eating correct, or not eating like he should. Isn't that right?
Yes.
Okay. Did y'all talk about past doctor's visits at all?
I believe mom mentioned taking the child for his 2-month checkup, for his 2-month
Okay.
vaccines.
So isn't it true that mom took Sebastian to the doctor twice before the December 11th visit to the hospital?
Yes.
Okay. And isn't it true that mom took Sebastian to the doctor on this October 31st? And then before that in September?
Yes.
Okay. I believe September 7th. Does that sound right to you?
Sounds correct. Yeah. Yeah. Around that time. Yes, sir.
And we've shared these doctor's visits records with you. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you reviewed them in preparation for this hearing. Is that right?
It was very minimal that was on the paperwork that I received.
Okay. But during those visits, specifically the October 31st visit, isn't it true that mom reported coughing and wheezing with Sebastian? I'm sorry, SC.
Yes.
Okay. And isn't it true that mom reported giving SC Motrin and ibuprofen to, I guess, help Sebastian or SC with some issues that he was having?
That I don't recall.
Okay. Do you recall that, isn't it true that Sebastian, SC, I'm sorry, was diagnosed with RSV?
I did not know that.
Okay. Isn't it true the child
was that in October or September?
that had been in October, Your Honor?
Oh, thank you.
And again, isn't it true in October, the doctor reported that SC was well developed and well nourished?
I don't recall that, but I don't recall.
Do you have those records in front of you?
I can. Yes, I do.
Okay.
Object to hearsay.
Response?
Judge, I'm not asking her to read them. Or actually to say anything off those records. I'm asking her to use them to refresh her memory, Your Honor.
Your Honor, anything the doctor said would also be hearsay.
Sustained as to hearsay.
on December 11th, mom and dad decided to rush SC to the hospital. Is that right?
Yes.
Leading up to that point, his condition had worsened, correct?
Yes.
And on the way there, isn't it true that mom had to give SC CPR? Isn't that right?
Yes, sir.
So she saved her baby on the way to the hospital, didn't she, that day?
Yes.
Okay. Now, at I guess some point CPS decided to go for removal. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what date did y'all decide to go for removal?
I believe it was around December the 19th.
So this was how many days after, I guess, SC came into the hospital? That would have been 8 days. Is that right?
About 8 days. Yes, sir.
Okay. So the older kids were in the care of mom and dad for that amount of time for 8 days, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then on February 2nd, isn't it true that CPS gave a finding as far as neglect and abuse for mom and dad?
I don't recall the date.
Okay. You have a finding for mom and dad as far as neglect and abuse, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And the finding on both mom and dad are unable to determine, isn't that right?
Yes, sir.
And that's for both parents
Yes, sir.
and both for neglect and abuse, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, if these injuries were non-accidental, you can't say with any certainty that the father caused these injuries, correct? Yes or no?
No, sir. No, sir.
No, sir. Okay. And you can't say if these injuries were non-accidental, whether mom caused these injuries, correct?
Correct.
And you can't say that they failed to protect Sebastian, correct? If you can't say who caused these injuries, then you can't say that they failed to protect from those injuries, correct? Yes or no?
No.
And at this time, the primary permanency goal is reunification. Isn't that correct?
Yes, sir.
I pass the witness, Judge.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Weigel.
Can you testify that any of the children, SC or any of the other children, have any injuries whatsoever on them?
Well, the child SC did have a skull fracture and injury to his intestines.
Okay, but again, that could have been caused by a medical condition, not by abuse, correct?
I'm not a medical.
Speculation and medical expert opinion.
Sustained.
I'm just asking if it's possible, but okay.
Same attorney.
Do you know that those issues were caused by abuse?
I do not.
And certainly you don't know that those issues were caused by any abuse by or any issue by Daryl Chapman, correct?
Same objection calls for speculation and expert opinion.
Overruled as to that specific question. You may answer.
Can you repeat the question, sir?
If you don't know that the issues were caused by abuse, then you certainly don't know that it was caused by abuse by Daryl Chapman, correct?
Yes, sir.
Was that a yes, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
You testified that the mother, Ms. Wisner, stated that her 10-year-old sometimes helps with the care of SC. Is that correct?
Yes.
But you weren't conducting the interview. Mr. Kingsley was.
Correct. Yes, sir.
Do you remember the specific question he asked to elicit that response?
I do not, sir.
So is it possible that that question could have been put in some sort of hypothetical, like, could your daughter have done this, or could your daughter be taken care of this child? Is that possible?
It's possible.
Is it the policy of CPS to seek the removal of all sick children in the state of Texas?
Is it the policy for what? I'm sorry?
Is it the policy of CPS in the state of Texas to take custody of all sick children?
I wouldn't say policy.
So what would it be then? So is every child at Texas Children's Hospital in CPS care?
No, if they're at risk.
So if a parent brings a sick child to the hospital, they're at risk of having that child removed, according to you?
Subject to relevance of these other cases and all the other children at Texas Children's Hospital.
Well, sustained. And Mr. Weigel, let me know or remind me, where does the number 6 come from? Are there other children in the home whom CPS does not have emergency custody of?
No, I said sick as in
sick.
Unwell. What I'm trying to establish, Your Honor, is that the state only takes possession of children that are subject to abusive neglect, not just, ill.
I understand. Next question.
Isn't it true that you don't have any direct evidence, meaning that you haven't seen these parents, either one of them, do anything abusive or neglectful, correct?
Correct.
Pass the witness.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Iverson. Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir. Ms. Medrano, did the father, I'll start with the father, did the father say anything that you would consider an admission or self-incriminating in any way?
No, ma'am.
Objection calls for a conclusion, calls for a legal conclusion. Is calling something an admission or incriminatory is something that a lawyer would determine.
Sustained.
Did the father, well, you've already answered the question. As to the mother, did she say anything that you took to be expressing guilt in terms of not in a legal sense, but in how we all feel guilty or don't feel guilty about something?
Objection made, and move to strike the previous answer as far as Daryl Chapman. I'm actually trying to bring out the fact that they didn't, but if you want me to move on, that would be fine.
All right. Any admission by either parent of abuse or neglect, Ms. Medrano?
No, sir.
Right. Next question.
So
sustained, and the previous answer to that one is stricken. You may continue.
Did either parent say anything that you took to be blaming the 10-year-old older sister for SC's injuries in any way?
No.
Was anyone else mentioned by either parent at any time who would have had the care of SC other than the parents themselves?
No, ma'am.
From your point of view, were the parents appropriately concerned about SC?
Yes.
And were they appropriately upset, emotional about his condition?
Yes.
Now, I want to move back to the prior pediatric appointments. Were there any concerns that SC had been missing any regularly scheduled appointments that any child his age would be having?
No.
Was SC said to be underweight?
Yes.
Did you feel that the parents were appropriately at least trying to address that concern
Yes, ma'am.
and appropriately concerned about it?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, you can't say, you stated that you can't say that the parents failed to protect, but is the problem that you also can't say they did not fail to protect because you just don't have that information?
Correct.
I'll pass the witness.
All right. Thank you. Back to you, Ms. Dick.
So since you saw SC on December 12th, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And where was he?
In the hospital.
And what part of the hospital was he in?
I don't know if it was the PICU or the NICU. PICU, maybe. I'm not really sure.
Okay. And and how was he doing? What was his prognosis, or how was he doing at that point?
The day that I saw him, he was sedated. He had just had surgery the night prior.
Okay. And was either parent present?
No, ma'am.
And when was the next time you had contact? What was the next step that you took on this case in your investigation?
Me and Mr. Kingsley went to interview mother and father at their home.
Okay. Did you talk to the children at that point?
Briefly, we didn't do like a full interview. We just briefly spoke to them.
Okay. And was there anything remarkable in that conversation?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And what was the next step that you took in the case?
I believe we just waited for us to receive medical records from the hospital.
Okay. And did you have a contact at the hospital for the case?
I did, yes, ma'am.
And who was that?
It was a social worker, Emily Mitchell.
Okay. And were you able to check in with her on a daily basis, or how often were you able to contact her?
She would usually contact me about every day or every other day.
So at that point, she would give an update on SC's condition.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And did she ask you to take any action on behalf of SC?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So you had contact with the social worker. When was the next time you went to see SC?
I didn't see him after that initial visit.
Okay. And did you attempt to set up an interview for the other children in the home?
Yes.
All right. And what happened with that?
The initial forensic, we were going to have forensic interviews for the children. But the previous attorney, I think he didn't allow it.
Okay, so he didn't allow the interviews. And what was your next step in the investigation when those interviews were not permitted?
I was supposed to meet with that attorney to visit with the children at the home.
And what is the normal procedure if you're going to visit with children at the home? Who's present?
Usually when we speak to children, we speak to them on their own.
And was that permitted?
No, something happened and the attorney pulled out of the case, or I don't know exactly what happened. And so those interviews were canceled.
Okay, were the interviews canceled prior to the attorney pulling out the case, or do you recall?
I don't recall.
All right. After that, did you attempt to set up the CAC interviews again, or what was your next step?
Yes, we did set them up for a later time.
And what date was that?
December the 27th.
Okay. And by that time, had the department asked for removal?
Yes.
Removal.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And how long was SC expected to be in the hospital?
The last time I had spoken to Miss Mitchell, I believe she said he had a release date of 1:30.
And what date was he in fact released?
I do not know. I no longer had the case at that time.
Okay. And to your knowledge, how long was he in the PICU?
From my knowledge, for about a month.
And when was the case transitioned to conservatorship?
I don't know the exact date. It was sometime in January, close to the end of January, maybe.
No further questions of this witness. I'll pass the witness. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Ms. Dick, you may call your next.
At this time, I'd like to call Mr. Kingsley.
I'm a special investigator for the Department of Family Protective Services.
All right. And how long have you been a special investigator with the department?
Just over 4.5 years.
Okay. And prior to being a special investigator for the department, where were you employed?
Just prior to here, I was employed in law enforcement in the state of Wisconsin.
And how long were you in law enforcement?
Over 20 years.
All right. And when did you initiate your investigation in this case?
So generally, special investigators like myself there's a request that comes into our box for assistance on serious injury cases where there's some uncertainty or that type of thing. So I believe there was a request that came in on, and I will be referring to my notes, by the way, if that's okay.
Well, you may do that to refresh your memory. You may not testify from them. So let us know if you need your memory refreshed. And
yes, I need my memory refreshed. So it was December 12th.
Right.
Okay. And who did you encounter when you started the interview or started the investigation?
So I was contacted by Miss Madrano, and the initial thought was to respond to where the child had been transferred downtown to Texas Children to interview parents. And when we arrived there, we learned that the parents had left.
All right. Did they know that you were coming? Had you made contact with them?
Honestly, I don't know what Mr. Madrano had done. I don't believe there was contact made prior to.
Okay. And did you have an opportunity to observe the infant?
No, I didn't. I believe the staff wanted that to be limited, so I think Miss Madrano was allowed.
All right. In the interview took place at the home of the Chapmans, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And who did you speak to first when you arrived?
So when we arrived, I let them know that we wanted to speak to them regarding gathering some social history and regarding the incident and allegations. So the first interview was conducted with Miss Chapman.
Okay. And how did you start the interview with her?
We just introduced ourselves and explained kind of the role and, how this came to be. And then let them know that there was some social history gathering that we typically like to get regarding everything, so we have a better understanding of background. So that was the initial part of the interview.
Okay. And did she indicate that there was prior social or prior CPS history?
I believe she did.
And do you recall the nature of that history?
I believe it had something to do with
Hearsay, Your Honor.
I'm sorry. Let me hear the objection is to hearsay.
Yes, Your Honor. Hearsay is to him mentioning the CPS history.
It's sustained.
Your Honor, I asked if they had asked her, what her response was to any prior CPS history to that question.
Sustained.
What type of background did she have growing up?
Your Honor, I'm going to object to relevancy.
Or foundation is the other objective.
Okay.
How does this witness have any foundation to testify about her childhood?
Sustained as to foundation.
I thought we were asking about Miss Weisner, the mother. I was asking about the mother's background and his questions of her.
Okay, let me hear the question again, just as it was originally asked.
Okay. Hold on. I was simply asking what type of background she had growing up.
That's the question, Your Honor. I don't want to interrupt her. But,
what did she tell him about her background growing up?
All right, you may answer that.
I can't recall the details, but I do remember her saying it was difficult growing up.
Next question.
Okay.
All right, are you ready, Ms. Dick?
I'm not quite ready, Your Honor. I'm sorry. I am.
Okay, just tell me what you need.
I'm needing to reset if we can. I'm just a little nauseous from this morning, and I do apologize.
You don't need to apologize at all. As I said earlier, I'm looking into the availability of courtroom space on the 14th and or the 16th. Would you all be available on the afternoon of the 3rd? That's this Friday.
Hoping the doctor is available on the 3rd and the 6th.
Okay, so let's back up and talk about this Friday afternoon, the 3rd. Everybody available for that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, I'm available whenever our trial that morning is over. So yes, sir.
Well, you're in the Fort Worth area, is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. And your client is in, obviously, Liberty County.
Yes, Judge.
All right. Any objection to Mr. Scalise appearing virtually on the afternoon of the 3rd?
No objection, Your Honor.
No objection.
All right. I will find a good cause and allow that virtual appearance.
And may I also ask for a virtual appearance of the doctor?
Is there an agreement to that?
Yes.
I wouldn't object to that, Judge.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Walker.
No objection, Your Honor. I would my only concern with the 3rd is with the hospital just to produce the 11,000 pages of records. and the doctor then going to be testifying from it, or not testifying from it, but at least referring to those records, that it can be very difficult to be prepared for Friday afternoon to be able to answer, to ask questions and cross-examine based on those records that quickly. But I mean, that's my only concern.
Okay, so irrespective to that, do you have any objections to him or her testifying virtually?
No. The doctor, no, but just the third. That's
okay. Well, we would only at least the next stage, the next setting, we'll only have an afternoon at the most, and so we've still not heard from Mr. Kingsley fully, nor the parents nor CASA. So we may otherwise have enough to keep us busy that afternoon, but we'll see. The court, Ms. Dick, does hereby allow testifying doctor to appear virtually, but I believe I have already created a Zoom login for that day. Yes, I have. And Ms. Dick, I believe I heard you mention the 6th, Monday, March the 6th in passing. Just to remind everybody, we have the Williams trial in Chambers County that day. Ms. Iverson, anything else from you today before we recess? I want to make sure that appropriate maximum visits are occurring in the interim.
I do too, Your Honor. And I believe in our last hearing that we didn't have, but I still brought up that issue. I think I took care of that.
Okay. All right.
Ms. Lynch may be able to tell us the current visitation schedule.
I believe what we reached was just unlimited as long as the placement was okay with it.
Okay.
And this is for the older children?
Right. Because the baby was still in the hospital.
All right. And so is that everyone's understanding and agreement, Mr. Scalise, Mr. Weigel?
It is, Your Honor.
At least until the 3rd.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right.
Are we talking about the older kids, or are we talking about all of the kids?
Well, we were talking about the older kids, but of course I want to talk about all of them. And
okay.
Ms. Martin unmuted, which usually has something important to say.
No, I was just going to ask if there were going to be visits set up for the parents and Sebastian, or even the children, the older children and SC.
Well, let me hear about that, and to that end, let me get Ms. Lynch. Thank you. If you'll raise your right hand, get you sworn in, and then you can unmute. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God? Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So this is Audrey Lynch, and so she's right now a conservatorship caseworker who, though the department doesn't have TMC other than emergency TMC, I believe conservatorship usually takes over the facilitating and scheduling of the visits. So Ms. Lynch, if you will let us know what the department's plan is concerning sibling visits. In other words, the older visiting with the olders visiting with SC, and then parental visits with SC.
Okay, so SC was discharged from the hospital and is now in a PMN foster home. So I'm trying to set up transporters and
That
visitation.
stands for primary medical needs
Correct.
foster home. Okay.
Correct. I'm hoping to get visitation started next week. This week he had a doctor's appointment every single day with specialists this week. So far, what it looks like it's possibly going to be is on Tuesdays. I have a transporter that's available to do the visit on Tuesdays at the CPS office from 10 to 11 for the parents. But we have to try to figure something out to get the sibling visits that it doesn't disrupt school.
Right.
So right now, that's what I'm trying to work on.
All right. Well, so again, that's not going to begin because of CS's daily specialists appointments until a week from today, correct?
Correct. It would hopefully start next Tuesday. Because
what I want to happen at least once between today and Friday is that I want the parents to have a virtual visit, 10 minutes virtual visit with SC. I don't want virtual visits with the two olders yet, because I don't know how scary that might be for them. I'm okay with, we'll talk about visits with all three siblings, perhaps Friday afternoon, but I do want the parents to have at least one 10-minute virtual visit with SC between now and Friday.
okay.
Okay.
Your Honor.
Yes.
Thank you first for the virtual visit, and I wanted to see if it's possible for the court to address, or at least to talk to Ms. Lynch about giving the parents, say, 2 hours, which I know can be done, just depending on who's available, I'm sure. For the Tuesday visits, Judge, specifically.
Yes. So right now it's 10 to 11. So let's think in terms of 10 to noon, Ms. Lynch. And that would be just with the parents, not the olders, because we want them to be in school. But we'll figure out how to incorporate them in visits, because that's supremely important. We all know that. Let's think in terms, plan in terms of 10 to noon, because I know you got transports involved. So 10 to noon, beginning Tuesday the 7th. We'll talk about it again Friday afternoon if we need to. Also, Ms. Iverson,
Yes, sir.
CASA, what are your thoughts on the parents attending these doctor's appointments this week?
I would like that.
Yes, I agree.
Okay, so Ms. Dick, is the department in agreement with that?
Yes, Judge.
Okay, thank
If the parents can make the appointments, we're in agreement with them attending.
Okay, thank you. So, Mom and Dad, I don't know what your schedules are. I would imagine attending these appointments would be very, very high on your priority lists. So I am going to order the department, whoever has the information, to make the dates, the times, the locations of each and every one of those appointments. So we probably have one that's already happened today. There was probably one yesterday, so there may be 3 or 4 more this week. So the department needs to get all of that information to the parents, copy their, include the attorneys, their respective attorneys. But if it's necessary, I also want the department to make sure the doctors, the hospital, the clinic, the social workers, if any involved at this point, know that the parents are not to be turned away, that they have a right to be at those, in fact, a court order to be at those visits, appointments. All right, thank you all very much. Anything else?
Thanks, Judge.
All right.
Just, Your Honor, what time on what time exactly on the 3rd?
Friday.
Good question. We will say 1:30. 1:30. 1:30.
And I did receive confirmation from Texas Children's that Dr. Mitchell will be available.
Okay. All right. Great. Virtually. Great. Okay. All right. Anything else from anyone? Okay. Else. All right. Thank you all very much. Mr. Scalise, I don't know. I think your client might have raised her hand. I don't know if she has a question for the court or a question for you. If it's a question for your attorney, you can contact him, but y'all will need, I muted you all earlier because I thought I was getting some noise from your device, so you'll need to unmute.
I was just wanting to ask, are we coming into the courthouse or we're
Yes.
not doing? Okay, that's
Yes.
all I wanted to know.
Okay. All right. And so I believe we'll be in the 253rd, which is on the first floor.
Okay,
That's on Friday at 1:30, Your Honor. Is that
That's
correct?
March, believe it or not, it's already March the 3rd, Friday, 1:30 in the afternoon. Okay, so we'll see you then and there. Thank you very much. If there's not anything else, take care. Have a good rest of the week. We'll see you Friday at 1:30 in person.